I'm going to take you through the Wacom tablet and show you how I customize it for digital painting. Now, on your Mac, you go to your System Preferences and you click on your Wacom tablet properties and you have this interface. To get here on your PC, you go to Start, Programs, Wacom tablet, Wacom properties, and you will have the same interface that you have here. Everything else is the same. It's just how you navigate. Now I click on functions. I'm not going to do the customizing on my pen. I can turn the toggle on my pen off, which I like to disable the button totally. So if I by accident push the button, it doesn't start turning things on for me in the middle of painting. And you have so much customizable keys and functions, the express keys and the touch strips, that I don't use the pen anymore. Now, not to say that you can, you might be used to it. On my left, now I am a lefty, so I paint with my left hand and I have my right hand free. So you got to keep in mind how you're going to make it comfortable for you to work. So I need my right hand free to push all the buttons that I need for shortcuts. That's on my right side. On my left side, what I like to set up over here is I go to my Open Run, and I like this button right over here to open up Painter for me. So I browse and I go to my application and I navigate to Corel Painter 10 and I click on Painter 10 and I say Open and I say OK. So now when I'm going to click on that button, it's going to open Painter 10 for me. And I come in here and I do Open Run and I browse, and you guessed it, I'm going straight for Photoshop CS2 and I'm saying Open and OK. And now I have this button over here on the left and that button to open up Photoshop for me. Really simple. And I have these two disabled, which I can choose anything I want, but I'm disabling it. And that's all I want on my left side because my left side is what I paint with. Now, on my right, now you see over here that I have already things that are set up from before. But in order to show you how I do it, or let's say you set something before and you want to change it, just click on Default. And default's going to give you the default from the factory, which obviously over here we have Command and Shift, Option and Space. And these are the default on the right and the left side. I'm going to go now, let me just quickly go here and do an Open Run so that I will have my Painter to open up for you. And I'm just going to choose Painter 10 again and say OK. And now when I push that button, I'm going to have Painter open. And here I'm just going to disable. And I'm going to disable over here as well. Now, on my right side, I want to have a few things available to me. You have keystrokes and you have modifiers. A keystroke is the spacebar is default, and this is excellent. I'll show you in a minute how I work with it. The modifier, the Option key, is excellent. I option colors all the time. Now, I would like for this button over here, the one that's a modifier, Command by default, to be my undo button. How cool can it be if every time I want to do Command Z or Control Z, all I have to do is push this button over here. So I'm going to go to a keystroke. And it's going to show me here, it's waiting for me to say which keystroke do I want. I'm going to do a Command Z. And then I say, OK. And it wants me to say, what is that? So I'm going to say it's an undo. And say, OK. And now, every time I push that button in Painter or in Photoshop, it will undo the last thing that I did. Now, the modifier key over here, the Shift key, I will leave that alone. I will leave that as an option, and I will leave the keystroke over here as a space. So I'm done with my express keys. Now I have the touch strip. That's the strip on the side that you can slide your finger up and down. Default is scrolling up and down. I want on the left side, it should be a regular scroll. Actually, I want it to be let's leave it in an auto scroll or a zoom, so I can zoom in and out of my picture. But on my right side, I want it to be a keystroke. What do I want? I would like for my right side to be available to me to go up and down, to slide my finger up and down and make my brush size larger or smaller. So let's click. What happens if I slide my finger upwards? I'm going to do a right bracket. And I'm going to say OK. And I'm going to write that brush larger. So I can't spell, but I can paint. Brush larger. And I'm going to say OK. And now I'm going to click on the bottom one. You guessed it. It's the left bracket key. And I'm going to say OK. And I'm going to write brush smaller. And I'm going to say OK. And now I'm done with all my specifications that I want my Wacom tablet to do for me. So let me come in here now and go back to my express keys. Now, if I'm going to push this button, which I'm going to do right now. Now, you can't see it, but trust me, I just pushed it. And look how it launched Painter for me. And I'm going to open up just a little file here. And I have my paintbrush in front of me. Now, normally I have to go in here and say I want the paintbrush larger or I want the paintbrush size smaller. But I set up in here on the touch strip that if I go and slide it up or down, it gets larger or smaller. So watch, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to slide up and make my brush size larger. So watch the brush get larger, but look at the numbers in here. They're getting larger. And if I slide down, they get smaller. Okay? So that is absolutely amazing. You have all the controls right there with you. It's all on my tablet. And one more thing I'm going to show you again. We have brush tracking, which works excellent together with my Wacom tablet. So if I come in here and I do preferences, brush tracking, and I tell the computer, I tell Painter what I want it to translate, how I want it to translate my brush strokes. If I have a very light stroke, I'm telling Painter I'm painting very lightly. This is how I want you to understand my stroke. When I paint very lightly, I want not to have to put too much pressure. The same amount of pressure that I just designated is how much I want to apply, and it should paint for me. Now, if I would come in here and say brush tracking, I want to have to push very hard for the paint to come out and paint for me. Now, if I go very lightly, nothing is happening. I use the same like before. Now I have to push very hard. I just told the computer that I want to use a very specific amount of pressure in order to paint. And this is very helpful. I change my brush tracking very often while I paint. Sometimes I want a light touch, sometimes I want a hard touch. And later on in the program, I will teach you how to utilize it to optimize the way you paint. So there you have it. That's the Wacom tablet. Can't live without it. Can't live without your brushes.